This is Dave Tate back at you with more washed up meathead tips. First tip, clean up. As part of your warm up, clean up the gym. Pick things up. It doesn't matter if it's a home gym, commercial gym, wherever it is. People always leave shit out. It's a given. It happens everywhere. So what I do as part of my warm up is I'll walk around and just put shit away. If it's tear down deadlift bar, tear down squat bar, whatever it is, I will do that and just kind of straighten up, put plates where they're supposed to be. And I don't have the cleanest gym in the world, but I'll do this for a long enough period of time. I think this morning it's been 45 minutes until I sweat and I'm moving. And then as I'm putting these things away, I'm being conscious of how I'm actually doing it. So carrying plates, kind of like, I don't want to say a farmer's walk, but you know, I'll carry a plate in one hand and nothing in the other hand. So the stability aspect, I don't want to get into all that bull crap because there's a ton of videos for that. So the meathead tip is, people are always going to leave fucking shit around. You're always going to leave stuff around in your own place. Just take 20 minutes, 30 minutes and just straighten things up. To me, that's a functional warm up, right? For the upper body days, another thing that I do that has stayed in my warm up for a couple years now, and while I'm putting things away, I'll do band pull aparts and stuff like that too, is tip number 2, some type of shoulder distraction, shoulder circles. I learned this after my first shoulder surgery a long time ago, and every time I've taken them out, how do I want to say this? Every time I've put them back in, I've noticed a significant difference. So you don't need a lot of weight. I like to use something that I don't have to squeeze, so I can just relax, let the shoulder drop. Right now it's a little tight, so after a period of time it will just drop lower and lower. So circles one way, circles the other way with each arm. And we'll see how many tips this ends up being. That's 2 for now. Tip number 3, warm-up sets. After using the bar or broomstick or whatever you're gonna use for the very first set, anytime you start putting weight on the bar, I like to suggest, and myself as well, to take the repetitions down to 3 or 5. I would rather do 4 or 5 sets of 5 with the same warm-up weight and keep progressing up than one set of 20. Multiple reasons for this. There's going to be more first reps, there's more opportunities to practice technique, there's more sets, there's more getting up and down off of the bench, which is all part of the warm-up as well. You'll thank me for this later. Tip 4, this one's old school. This one goes way back. Treat light weights like they're heavy, heavy weights like they're light. So even though this weight is very light, I'm going to treat it like it's a top set. That way I can stay tight. Again, I'm practicing the technique. Okay, again, it's to practice the form, it's to practice the technique. It's also to practice just holding the weight, because when the weight gets heavier, you want to be able to hold it and let it all settle into you. So that's a skill that you have to practice with the lighter weights as well. In my experience and from what I've seen over the years, most of the injuries that I've seen happen with submaximal and lighter weights, not maximal weights. A lot of the reason for that is technique. They're not staying tight and they're taking the weight for granted. So you may as well start with quarters per side or whatever the first warm-up set is, and make sure you're practicing that and lifting that the same way that you would if it was a maximal set. Tsunami bar presses. I like the Tsunami bar as one of the front-loaded movements of a training session, because it's going to work my stabilizers a little bit more. It's going to make me lock in a little bit more, so it's going to help me when I try to do the next movement, which I'm going to do, which is going to be a heavier primary movement. So what I'm going to try to do here with the Tsunami bar as I do this set is I'm going to push, as I'm benching, I'm going to try to push my toes through my shoes. So I'm driving into the floor, but I'm pushing through the shoes. So my shoes are probably about a half size big for the training shoes that I use for the bench and all the other stuff, so I can feel my foot move to where it needs to move. So I'm gonna be applying that force into there, which is driving my back and shoulders down into the bench, but also this way through the bench. So when I take the bar out, I'm also gonna hold it for a little while to let everything stabilize like I talked about earlier. This is, the other thing I like about the Tsunami bar is I have to use a lot less weight than what I could use if it was a straight bar. So in a way it's kind of a deload, but it's still working everything that I want to work in the nature that I want to work it. It is different than a bamboo bar. They're both different things. Maybe I'll do the bamboo bar later to show you how I use that. But this is the Tsunami bar. Is the washed up Meathead. It's a tip because it can be rotated in, and it's a little less damaging. Not damaging, it's a terrible word. It's less, doesn't hurt the joints as bad once you get acclimated to it. So keep the weights light and then realize what you're trying to work, you know, is the stability with that. Okay, guys, there's gonna be a few washed up Meathead tips in this one. I have no idea how many this has been so far. I haven't been using the little chalk marks to keep track of it. First is using a shoulder saver bar or a shoulder saver pad. It's a partial range of motion. I'm just gonna do a rep so you can see what I'm talking about. Okay, couple things. I'm using this today in my training as my primary exercise, so I'll go heavier on that. So I already did the limp stuff to get tight, remember? So this is how I'm gonna be able to go heavier on it. My shoulder's jacked up, so what I'm trying to do here is to reduce the range of motion so I can still go heavy without putting all that extra stress on my shoulder, thus the shoulder saver bar. I like the shoulder saver bar because it's a little bit fatter bar, which displaces the force a little bit differently through the arm. So it's a little bit easier on the shoulders than if it was just a regular power bar. If it's a regular power bar, you can use our shoulder saver pad. The point I want to make with this is common sense. Everybody kind of gets that. But what everybody doesn't understand, my mouthpiece from the first washed up Meathead, check it out, you'll see why it's in there. What people don't understand when they do partial range exercises like this and they're a washed up Meathead is it's great for strength development. You know, everybody gets that, so I'm not going to go down that road. When you're doing it for the reasons that I'm doing it, so you can still load heavy on certain exercises, you got to keep in mind not everything that you do is going to be a partial range motion, otherwise you're just going to make the issue become worse. So you still have to work within that fullest range of motion that your joint's going to allow. So what I'll do after this, towards the end of the training session, is either incline dumbbell presses or the same exercise with a straight bar, but I'm not going to go heavy on it. I'm going to keep light on it, and I'm going to go into the furthest range of motion that I can that's not going into pain. So just shy of pain. So now, over a period of years, I'm able to touch my chest. So I could actually do this exercise and touch my chest with a barbell, but the issue is going to be I can't go very heavy on it because load over a period of time will increase the stress and the pain on the joint. So what I'll do on a bench press, for instance, is I'll do all to my chest, all to my chest, all to my chest until I start to get that threshold with the pain. Then I would put on the shoulder saver pad. I could do that here if I was using the shoulder saver pad instead of the bar, but what I've decided to do today instead is just to finish with the full range dumbbells. So I still get that in there, but with the dumbbells, I'm not going to be worried about the weight at all. I'm going to just be worried, pretty much like it's a loaded stretch is what I'm going to be doing with that. The phase of training that I'm in right now is a conditioning phase. So more of this type of stuff is in there than the heavier pounding type of things. The other cool thing, and this is pure washed up Meathead, is the way that I have this set up. I have these band pegs here and here in our double iso rack. So when I'm done, I just grab, 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 and pull and walk out. That's the epitome of lazy. Hey, just to validate some of the tips from the old ones, when it's hotter than a blister bug in a pepper patch, You spray that shit down and sit in front of the fan. Am I dead yet? Okay, next tip. This is with the tricep extensions. As I said with shoulder saver incline, what I'm gonna do here, what I do with a lot of my tricep training, not all of it, same principles as what the shoulder saver was. I'm gonna load the top part of the extension and I'm gonna unload the bottom part. So with this, I like to use chains, I like to use bands. There's ways to do certain things with cables as well. The reason for this is when I was still competing many, many years ago, the one injury that I wanted to avoid pretty much more than anything else was a tricep tear. What I noticed with all the lifters that tore triceps, their bench never came back. The other thing that I noticed is most of the tricep tears that I was seeing were people that were not training their close grip as much as they should. So all their bench presses were done with a wide grip, or basically their strongest grip, so they didn't do a lot of close work. So I always made sure to do a lot of close work to where my close grip bench was probably stronger than my wide grip bench. The other thing was most of the tears that I was seeing were with some type of tricep extension. And it was always in the bottom position. So I just started kind of putting one and one together and realized that I need that tricep extension for my bench. I need it for the strength. I need it for any lockout power. But I didn't really need it at that bottom end. But I still could train the bottom end, which I'll tell you about here in a minute. And so I did a lot of floor JM presses with chains, a lot of JM presses with chains, a lot of JM presses which kind of avoid that bottom end the way that I was doing it, more of a modified thing. Things like the chain extension that I'm going to do here. Anything that was going to unload at the bottom, but just pound it at the top. This is going to be, just one chain, just to kind of show you what it is. But I'll work up to a few chains. Once again, though, like the shoulder saver I was talking about, if I do this, then I will do a tricep exercise either as down set or at the end of the training session to get that big full range of motion with a lighter weight, which would be more blood work, like pump work. This would be more strength work. So I would keep the repetitions in a 3, 5, right around that range. The pump work, I'd take it way up to 15 or 20. So it's kind of a mix of both in there. And I do that with both arms, and then just work up chains until I can get a few work sets of 5 reps, somewhere in that range. Oh, here's a quick one from last night's training. My hamstrings kind of suck right now. So for me to do a glute ham raise isn't really, I suck at them right now, let's just be honest about it. So I put the DC blocks, or I put risers under the front end. So I'm taking the angle of the pad and flipping it up. So that way when I'm doing the glute ham raise, it's way easier to do. So instead of using like a reverse band or force reps and stuff like that, just change the angle of the pad by putting something under the front end. If you want to make it harder, I got a whole video on that and a whole article on that. Just search elitefts.com, I think, 16 ways to use a glute ham raise. Another way to make it harder, using the same type of thing, put the blocks on the back end. So you're changing the pad angle in the opposite direction. That forces more of the weight forward. So if you really suck at them, like what I do right now, start with it front end up and then work it until you're good at them parallel. Everybody should be able to do 3 sets of 10 or 15, even 20 as a warm-up. You should be able just to get on there and knock these out. If you're not able to do that, then you kind of suck. Hey guys, let us know in the comments if these type of videos are what you'd like to see most of. For those that don't know me, my credentials are easy to find online, but the most important is I've been training in gyms, serious gyms, since 1982. So I've spent more years in gyms, serious gyms, training seriously for competitions, and after retirement, training seriously for more hours than anything else I've done in my entire life except sleeping. So I'm coming to you from experience. I also have the education, but to me, keep in mind I'm biased, experience trumps everything, because that's where I've seen the greatest results come from people. So take the tips that I'm giving you, take the advice that we're talking about, that we're putting on the channel, take it with a grain of salt. It's up to you to decide what you want to use, what you don't want to use. But I do think that you should vet the people that you're listening to. I have an article that I wrote on how to pick coaches to listen to. We'll put it in the description if we can find it, or we'll find it. And I really think that you should take the time to look at that and vet your sources a little bit more. I'm not telling you to not listen to everybody, because even the people that are most full of shit could have one little nugget that's gonna make a difference for you. I'm just telling you to take a little time to vet out the people that you're listening to. Hell, you may find I may not be the person that you want to listen to, and that's fine. I'm okay with that, because at least you vetted it out to be able to see. Let us know in the comments below if this is what you like. Subscribe, hit the bell, notifications, and all that other crap. We're putting a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of money into the content to be able to give you guys what you want. So please let us know if we're going in the right direction. Thank you guys.